Hey, is headless automation really worth it? Do you need to test a Flutter or React application? Does your application even scale for just one user? Do you know devices like pacemakers and insulin pumps could be vulnerable to security hacks? Find the answers to these and other full-stack test automation, performance testing, site reliability, security, DevOps automation in this episode of the Test Skill News Show for the week of September 26th. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea and let's do this. And before we get into it, this episode of the Test Skill News Show is sponsored by the awesome folks at Applitools. If you don't know, Applitools is a next-generation test automation platform powered by visual AI. They help increase quality, accelerate delivery, and reduce costs of the world's most intelligent test automation platform. Definitely check them out. Seeing is believing. Click on the link below to get your free account now. And speaking of Applitools, I'm actually going to be hosting a free event on September 30th for them called Future of Testing Frameworks. And this is your chance to get a hands-on view from some of the top experts in this area on different frameworks, how they're used, some new functionality. So don't miss out. It's only a few days away. So click on that link down below to register for the Future of Testing Frameworks event. So first up in automation testing news. So there's really an interesting discussion going on all about headless automation testing in LinkedIn, where Kelly asks, I have a question for all my software testing friends. If you run automation tests headlessly, can it still be considered a UI test? And Greg Pascal had an interesting response on how they've run automated tests in headless Chrome instances. And he says it actually perform differently than the default Chrome configuration. And they've proved this several times at his company in a real world scenario. And he would argue that the consistency of execution far trumps speed of execution. So this led me to down a rabbit hole of another article I found. And this talks about why use headless testing at all. He goes into insights on what the benefits are, what the pros and cons are, and what he ultimately decided was best for his team and his situation. I highly recommend checking out this blog post as well to go into a little more detail on the pros and cons of headless browser testing. I actually did a meetup last week on what I call the future of automation testing trends for 2022. And one of the trends I identified is the increase of people moving to mobile type devices, especially with COVID. Everyone's moving to try to get online to get the business up and running. So it's a trend I see growing even more. And anytime I see trends in mobile testing, a lot of times it's related to technology. And two types of technologies seem to be really driving. They seem to be kind of mobile-first technologies, and that is Flutter and React type applications. So I think it's technology you need to know more about. And before actually testing the technology, I think you need to actually understand the technology itself. So I found a really good article on the breakdown between Flutter and React that I think you should definitely give a read. And that just goes into detail on Flutter, React, what the differences are, pros and cons, what the developer experience is. So I just think it's another really good read that I think you should all check out. More companies are really turning to codeless test automation nowadays. So I think it fits in certain instances for certain companies or certain teams, especially if you have package applications that you need to test like Oracle or SAP or Salesforce, where you really have experts that know the flow of these type of applications, but they may not be technically developers or automation or engineers or testers. They can use these type of solutions to quickly create automation flows for their applications. So I think it's definitely worth checking out if you're in that situation, or checking them out to see how the technology has moved along in the last few years. So this article actually goes over codeless test automation and what you need to know before you actually start your journey by Jonathan, and just gives some insights on defining what is codeless test automation, some challenges of codeless automation, 3 ways to get started, and he has a quick user case that goes over how they've implemented codeless automation as well. So another thing that came across my news desk is Google unveils results of their DevOps report. And they examine the practices that drive software delivery, operational, and organizational performance. And they identify 4 metrics that classify teams as elite. And they go over into how they define elite and what those different practices are. And one of the interesting key findings in this report is continuous testing and continuous integration are both indicators of success, according to the report, of high-performance teams. So it goes over, like I said, a lot of different things. So definitely check out the report in the link below for more info. Have you heard about the automation wrapper called Serenity? It actually acts like a wrapper on top of different technologies and gives you all this awesome reporting and other benefits of using it. So you don't have to start your automation frameworks from scratch. I've actually been talking about it since 2014. It used to be called Lucidities, and they renamed it Serenity. So I actually just saw this tweet. I missed it. It happened a few weeks ago, but they actually ported over pieces of Serenity to WebDriver.io to take advantage of the ScreenPlayPattern. And this article just goes into detail on WebDriver.io and how it now integrates with Serenity.js and some of the benefits you get of using this type of integration. So definitely worth checking out if you're using JavaScript and WebDriver.io to get some extra benefits out of your existing framework. And last up in automation news, we have Cypress. So if you do anything with Cypress, you definitely should be checking out and following Gleb. And Gleb has a great YouTube channel he started. He should have more subscribers than what I think he has. And he goes over the new cy.session command, which solves the problem of caching and restoring cookies. Definitely a cool technique, how to authenticate faster in tests that he goes over in this video. So just a good resource to know and someone that you definitely should be follow for all things Cypress related. So next up, performance and site reliability news. So if you don't know about OpenTelemetry, definitely should check it out at opentelemetry.io. It's a standard that a lot of companies are embracing, and it's actually gaining momentum. And this latest article goes over how OpenTelemetry has become basically the observability standard. So if you're not aware of OpenTelemetry, if you're not aware of observability, I highly recommend you check out this article and OpenTelemetry to learn more, because I think it's something you're going to have to start implementing as we go forward in the new year and beyond. So one person you should definitely be following on LinkedIn and all the other socials is James Pulley for performance testing related information. And this latest is from his LinkedIn post, where he talks about, does your application scale for one user? And he goes over why a lot of people actually ignore this, or not ignore it. They don't really focus in on a single user metric. They usually go right to a stress test or a load test. Goes over a rule of thumb of what you can do to make sure that your application is performant, not just for many users, but you can't be performant for many users if it's not performant for one user. So good advice from James there. So definitely check it out in the links down below. And another must-follow person in the performance engineering space, observability space, is Nicole Vanderhoeven. And she has a really cool webinar on how to get started with load testing using K6. It just goes over the introduction to load testing. And so if you've ever wanted to know anything about performance testing or load testing or K6 and Grafana, so Nicole is one of the go-to resources for anything performance related, but like I said, she has a really engaging style. So definitely check out that webinar as well if you want to learn more about getting started with load testing. And do you test on AWS cloud platforms, but you need a way to actually debug locally on your local machine? Well, I came across a tool that's going to help you do that as well. So this is a fully functioning local AWS cloud stack, so you can develop and test your cloud and serverless apps offline. Really cool solution, free for you on GitHub, has over 34,000 stars. So it's definitely worth you checking out. If you do anything with AWS and you need to start debugging locally, definitely check out this solution. Next up, security news. And first news item is an acquisition recently that kind of caught my attention. And that is how LG acquired an automotive cybersecurity startup. So really interesting to find out how LG is getting into this space. To me, it just signals how automotive testing and cybersecurity is going to be even a bigger thing in 2022 and beyond. It's something you should probably get your head around, because I think this is a growing area that there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities for a career or for a job opportunity. So definitely check it out. And the last article on security is how a new cybersecurity center wants to protect medical devices from hacks. Said over the past decade, there's been an explosion in the number of connected medical devices, drug infusion pumps, pacemakers, monitors, that makes this an issue even more pressing than ever before. And that's why you should definitely be involved in security testing, even if you're more of a functional tester. I think it's really critical that we also get our heads around security testing. So let's wrap up this episode of the Test Skill News Show. But before we go, make sure to get your free Applitools account to discover how AI-based visual validation testing can help you in your testing efforts. So that's it for this episode of the Test Skill News Show. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.